أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We began the session today talking about the interpretation of the Holy Quran. It was a wonderful presentation by our respected Rabbi Sahib. We all enjoyed it. And to just connect with that before I go into my lecture today, remember that there have been different commentaries, translations, explanations, and expositions of the Holy Quran by different people. They have, I think, crossed the lines, and that's why the difference is in Islam. And that is why the difference is in Islam. The world can be divided for focusing on the Holy Quran into two major different parties or segments of population. One of them are Muslims and the others are non-Muslims. Those on the other side who have interpreted the Holy Quran that are not Muslims, they are called the Orientalists. There are many of them here. Bernard Lewis is one of them. Mr. Watts is another. And you can well imagine that the purpose of their interpretation of the Holy Quran is not at all in keeping with the spirit of the Holy Quran. They have done so much of damage under the garb or the guise that they are the scholars of the Holy Quran, that the world has drifted away from the true intention and meaning of the Holy Quran. Then the second segment of the population was Muslims. And those can be divided into two, the Ahmadis and the non-Ahmadis. As far as the ulama are concerned, we need not forget the great prophecy of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that in the latter days, the worst of the humanity under the firmament of heavens will be the ulama. Who are those ulama? They are the ones who have actually given you the exposition of the Holy Quran, driven mankind into the worst of the lot under the firmament of heavens. So it's very important to keep in mind the true interpretation of the Holy Quran, the foundation of which was laid by Hazrat Masih alayhi salatu wasalam. So that's where I begin and connect with the lecture. That lecture was about interpretation, and even with respect to interpretation, Hazrat Masih alayhi salatu wasalam has laid down certain ground rules, okay, which he followed and which we must follow. So we just can't pick up the Quran and make interpretations of it. We might falter and we might make more mistakes than we probably will do if we had any intention of doing justice or good to the Quran or Inventor. So let's be very careful in treading. And then the best thing would be to visit the injunction of the promise of Islam and to follow. Now I had expected that we would be sitting in groups and we would have the Holy Quran with us. And if you don't have it, then anybody who has a copy of the Holy Quran, would you please, whether it's... Yes.
Just a quick announcement. We do have some copies of the Holy Quran, but we're borrowing it from the Masjid. So don't write anything on them. We can give them, and and on the laptops you can open it up and look at the Holy Quran. Just to open it up on the web, so you can pass out the...
And same goes for the Lajna. Let's go to the 4 verses that explain that in the latter days, the Holy Quran would be safeguarded through the promised Messiah. Before I touch upon that topic, let me explain to you that the Holy Quran was revealed during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the entire religion of Islam was finalized and completed with the verse Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-Islam dinan. Now, having said that, there were verses in the Holy Quran that were revealed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that said, Ya ayyuhan nasu, inni rasulullah ilaykum jami'an. If you look at the expansion of tabligh during the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you would notice that it only was limited to the continent or subcontinent of Arabia. Okay? So how come do you see the fulfillment of the message? Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, the entire mankind, from the Hawaii Islands or the Fiji to Japan to all over. There was no train, there was no means of communication then as we have them now. So that leaves room for thought. And that's why I have selected a few verses to say that in the latter days, this was to be fulfilled. Just now we read how easy it is for us to read the Holy Quran from tiny little devices we hold in our hands. As a matter of fact, they're just devices. It's already in the air. It's already in the waves. It's already there for us. So, the access to the Holy Quran and the way it was to be spread in a universal way was to be achieved in the latter days. And that's why I present first Al-Hijr verse 10. So anybody who could read Al-Hijr verse 10? And it has to be very quick. And you can stand where you are and read it, please. And I'll choose Rajasab for your wonderful recitation of the Holy Quran, which I always enjoy, especially in the book of Ramadan. Could you please read Al-Hijr verse 10? I should have given the numbers. Anybody else who can at least locate the numerical of the chapter, just give a hand. Yeah, please. And they have the translation here?
Verily, it is we who have sent down this exhortation, and most surely we are its guardians.
So, the guardian of the protector or the protector of the Holy Quran is Allah Almighty Himself. And it's a very important verse. It is the key verse, the keynote of protection of the Holy Quran. That means from that day to now, no verse of the Quran has been changed, will ever be changed. And it has the force of Almighty Allah. I'll give you one example. Hazrat talks about the ayat. You can see that there was a Maulvi who wanted to change the verses of the Quran because, as it was pointed out earlier, the sequencing is very important. And that sequencing favors Jamaat-e-Ahmadiyya, as we will find out. But this man wanted to change the sequencing. So he lived in Batala, so he wanted to change and go to different publication houses, and they all refused. He even went to a Sikh publishing house and said, no, we are not going to do it. So he finally bought those slabs in those days that had the scribe, you could write on them, brought them home, and the next day the house and his family was destroyed, and they found out this is a challenge for the entire world. It's not going to change because there is a reason. So, even during this time, with the coming of Hazrat Masih, this exposition of the Holy Quran was to be gained in the same way it was revealed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Going back to our concept, Ya ayyuhan nasu inni rasulullah ilaykum jami'an. What it means is that in the latter days, this message of universal spread of Islam or the Quran was to be presented again. What it meant was that there would be a revisiting of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the latter days, so that, number one, the spread of the message and the prophecies contained in the Quran would be as evident as they were as prophecy. Then I will ask Radha Sahib to read the second one, which is Al Imran verse 20.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الدين عند الله الإسلام وما اختلف الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءهم العلم بغيا بينهم ومن يكفر بآيات الله فإن الله سريع الحساب.
And the translation.
Surely the true religion with Allah is Islam, and those who were given the book did not disagree, but after knowledge had come to them out of mutual envy, and whoso denies the signs of Allah, then surely Allah is quick at reckoning.
Recognize the verse, Inna Dina Indillahi Islam. Verily the religion in the eyes of Allah is Islam. Therefore, it is important to know that though there are many other religions in the world, Christianity, Judaism, atheism, and other isms, that the religion of Islam was to be the dominant religion and the true religion. How would that be achieved? That's the second question. Again, these two or three or more questions and the verses relating to them ask us to find out who would it be who would be tasked or entrusted with the assignment to spread the Holy Quran, teach the Holy Quran in the latter days. Not only that, Inna Dina Indillahi Islam also means that there will be attacks on Islam and the supremacy of Islam will be demonstrated through the coming of that person whose prophecy. Surah Sahib. Huwa alladhi arsala rasulahu bil huda. Can you read that, Radha Sahib? While he's selecting and going to read the verse, recite the verse, this verse talks about the victory of Islam over or the Prophet of Allah, Rasul. Huwa alladhi arsala rasulahu bil huda. Over all religions. Yes, Radha Sahib. Speak out.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله.
That's it. Now read the translation.
He it is who has sent his messenger with the guidance and the religion of truth, and he may cause it to prevail over all religions.
He may cause it to prevail over all religions. A key word, a key prophecy for the latter days, especially, that there will be attacks on Islam, but the predominance of Islam has already been prophesied through the coming of Hazrat Masih Islam. And finally, this would be Surah Jummah, verse 4.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. And he will raise him among others of them who have not yet joined them. He is the mighty, the wise.
That's it, Mr. Now, Akharina Minhum clearly establishes the bridging from the time of Hazrat Masih from the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad to the time of Hazrat Masih There's an important thing. Akharina Minhum contains another very beautiful prophecy, which is Qudrat Saniya. Because had it been limited to the time of Hazrat Masih alone, that work would have been just limited to his time frame. But the continuity of the message, of the spread of message, and taking on the challenges of the world was to be fulfilled during the time, and the continuing of it through Khilafat Ahmadiyya. And that's the Akhirin minhum lamma yanfuqu bihim. So in essence, we need to remember that the true interpretation of the Quran was to be done through Hazrat Masih. For a moment, let us imagine ourselves to be, let's say, going to school here, anywhere in the world, particularly here in America. Universities, college, young students who are faced with religious discussion and debate, and you're a think tank or even higher up in the chain of scholarly discussion, and then you've seen the onslaught on Islam. The onslaught of Islam has no end to it. Onslaught means the attacks on Islam. Who is defending them? On the one hand, you have a number of websites that are abrogating verses of the Holy Quran. Abrogating means they don't exist anymore. That's one part. And then there are people who are out there to defend them. And the people who are defending my view. And so it's very important to know what the Hazrat Masih taught us. Now, in teaching the Holy Quran, I think we'll go to slide the second slide, Exposition of the Holy Quran. Can I click it here?
It is on the screen.
It's on the screen now, the one that says the command of special knowledge. I'll straight away go to verses of the promise of Hazrat Masih said.
Won't you mind if I say something?
No, I have a lot to cover. I will beg your pardon. Let me move ahead. We can do that at the end. Hazrat Masih says, now, there are people, as I said, the Muslims who know Arabic more than you and I. There are Christians who know Arabic more than you and I. There are people who know the Quran more than you and I. But there's something missing. So if you were to be given a book, let's say Chinese book of mathematics, what would you need to know the book? Number one, anyone. Chinese. Number two, mathematics, because if it was, let's say, geography, you would need a knowledge of geography. And thirdly, if you didn't make any, if you really do about mathematics and Chinese, what else would you want? The person who wrote the book. So you need three things. Hazrat Masih says, Ilme Quran, Ilme Aam, Ilme Tayyib Zaban, Ilme Ghaib Az Wahy Khallaq Jahan. Quran ka ilm, the knowledge of the Holy Quran, is Pak Zaban ka ilm, the knowledge of this pure holy language, and Ilham Ilahi se Ghaib ka ilm, the owner and the writer of the book, uska ilm. These are the three ilms that Hazrat says, I have been given. And not only he says that I have been given, inse ilmam chu nishan ha dadan, har se hum chu shahid ustadan. Ye teen ilm mujhe nishan ke taur par diye gaye. These three signs have been given as distinctions. That means nobody in the world can challenge me on these three features of studying of the Holy Quran. And that is why the ulama ended up in garbage, providing nothing but the worst, being the worst under the firmament of heaven. On the other hand, Hazrat Masih says, these three things stand as witnesses in my support. So when you read his exposition, and here I'll take a breath, and I'll tell you, this exposition is not going to end in this lecture. It's just the beginning of a long series. In fact, we've already had more than a century of Hazrat Masih. It won't ever end, because the treasures of the Holy Quran are within the exposition of Hazrat Masih. Now, quickly, the central theme of the exposition is the unity of God. and I will not get into the depth of it. And the second thing is that the sole purpose of the Holy Quran in Hazrat Masih Maud Exposition is taqwa. So you have, to begin with, and that's the key. That we don't talk about Wafat Masih in the beginning, we talk about the unity of God. Only one God. Only one God. In today's economic disaster, when we are on the brink of annihilation economically, the whole world that is, there's only one way out. God. Only one way. Not your dad, not credit, no more, not the government of the United States. Nobody has the money, not even China has the money to bail us out of these crises. We are on the verge of a great disaster. There's only one way out. In that way, Hazrat Masih is Allah. Allah alone. And then the connection with Allah is the fear of God, which is taqwa. Now, the study of the Holy Quran, Hazrat Masih explains for the younger people, and most of the concepts of the Holy Quran are in this way. 3. Everything is in 3. So it's the lower level of the Holy Quran, which is very low for the lowest people, with people who have actually very elementary learning skills. Then the middle level, and then the highest level. The highest is the highest it can take. It also has something to do with what Hazrat Masih Maud talks about, the characteristics of the human soul. And the characteristics are nafse, mara, that's the soul that is inclined to evil. Then nafse, the Brahma, which is the self-criticizing soul, and nafse al-mutmainna, which is the soul that is at rest and at peace with Allah. The Holy Quran takes you through these stages. And Hazrat Masih, I'm always running out of time, so I don't want to get into this. But Hazrat Masih says in Tariqat Qulub कि याद रखना चाहिए कि लायक कुरान शरीफ की एक अदना तालीम और एक औस और एक आला दर्जे की तालीम है. Hazrat Masih फरमाते हैं, he says that these are the 3 levels. He says the study of the Holy Quran is not at all difficult. Because it begins with relating to your most basic elementary skills. And then it takes you on and on and on to the highest level. Now what is the purpose of these 3 levels? Again, back to the 3 characteristics of the human soul. The first is the Holy Quran makes a change, a social change, a spiritual change. And the spiritual change begins with man being a savage. Okay? We haven't been to Africa, folks. To me, there is like really at its worst, most challenging in that sense. And then to other islands. But this Quran is meant for them as well, that it teaches the savages to rise to the level of social beings. A social being with a perfect conduct. That's the key. The key to the Holy Quran, as it is stated in the philosophy of teaching Islam, is basically related to the society. If we can change the society, folks, we have done what we are here for. And the rest, of course, is lifting man to attaining the love of Allah. Now, Hazrat Masih Maud, before I go on, as one of the humble people who look at the Holy Quran versus other books of God, the other books you would notice, as in the Holy Quran, they're narratives. Okay? I may be jumping quite ahead. Narrative. The Holy Quran is futuristic. If you were to write a paper today, and the purpose of the paper is to historically visit the past, you wouldn't have achieved anything except to narrate the past, right? And the Holy Quran also narrates the past. It has recorded incidents. So does the Bible. And so does the Old Testament and the Vedas and other religious books. There are anecdotes and there are stories of the past. Hazrat Masih Maud made this wonderful change that makes it not only explanatory and applicable to us today, but also for the future. It's futuristic. So there are patient goals or predictions. But Hazrat Masih takes every one of the parables, the words of the Holy Quran, and reinterprets them in the light of the need of the modern world today. And that's where you would find that the interpretation and exposition of the Holy Quran by Hazrat Masih will serve your research needs, even if you are writing or talking to the highest level of intellect in America or anywhere. It'll help. It is so important for you that the purpose you would recognize now of Hazrat Masih coming is to distribute the treasures of the Holy Quran. To distribute the treasures of the Holy Quran. That is his sole purpose. Now, the Holy Quran has many treasures. Your question should be, why weren't those treasures revealed during the time of Hazrat Masih, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Why weren't they revealed then? And why are they being revealed now? But even then increased me, and we have yet to go a long way. Allah Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran that we have tons of treasures, unlimited treasures, and we reveal them piecemeal as they're required. So Hazrat Masih Maud came at a time when the onslaught on Islam was at its highest. You got to think why the whole Promised Messiah came to India. You got to read the history of India. It was God's plan to send him to India, because the real battlefield between all religions was in India. The battlefield in America was won by correspondence. Alexander Joey went down without a fight. But the real battleground, thousands of ships used to go filled with missionaries to India from all over the world. Even Alexander Joey was a top-class billionaire of his time. What I'm saying is that Hazrat Masih Maud treasures to the modern world began by onslaughts on Islam, and those onslaughts are never ending and will not end. And the treasures of the Holy Quran mean that they provide the defensive armor and the argument and strengthen you with the wisdom that is needed to respond to those messages and those challenges. What a great thing to say! You could be a think tank sitting on CNN and take the Holy Quran and defend Islam. You got to rationalize every bit of stuff. I have sat, even last year I attended law school full time at my age. And I said, everything that this man is saying is directly from the Holy Quran. The Quran is so much of wisdom that I have taken upon myself a challenge to take the worst and the most difficult subject matters that I couldn't understand. And I sat in those classes, and I was given the next year to teach those classes, even as a student. Because the Holy Quran empowers you, gives you the strength of wisdom to understand. And that comes from the teachings of Hazrat Masih. Now, quickly, the teachings of Hazrat Masih are contained in numerous writings, which will be very difficult for you to go through. And they attend to and are written at different time frames and different environments with different challenges and different focuses. But they have been marvelously put together in the Tafsir Kabir. Now, if you read Tafsir Kabir, and I hope you do that every night. Everything that Hazrat Masih Maud taught, Allah gave the same three things to Hazrat Masih Maud. The three things, Ilm Quran, Ilm Tayyib Zuban, and Wahi Khuda, all these things were given to Hazrat Masih Maud. It's marvelous to see that Hazrat Masih Maud takes each verse, takes you right along with all the critics of Islam. That's why he's called Hazrat Muslim Maud. He corrected the interpretation of the Quran through the ages by the sages, all the way till now. It's in indelible ink that this 5-volume commentary equips you with what you need to do or learn to express the Holy Quran. I'll start calming down and getting to something very important. Hazrat Masih Maud comes at a time when even the mullahs, the people who were waiting for him, even they were his worst enemies. Forget about the Christians, they were even worse. Hazrat Masih Maud writes, gives his exposition of the Quran. He says, हर तरफ फिक्र को दौड़ा के थकाया हमें, कोई दीन ने मोहम्मद से न पाया हमें. Hazrat Masih explains that he spread his understanding and discussion of the Holy Quran, talked about and deliberated in every field of knowledge. But he didn't find in the guide Islam, he didn't find any knowledge better, any religion better. So he says, after he has spread all this throughout the world, and we are doing it today, is it only an academic exercise? Is it only an exposition in the sense of being read? Or is it more than that? And the answer is, Hazrat Masih, I'm going to read the Urdu because the Urdu really strikes your heart, but for the sake of the younger generation, I will try to translate. ऐ बुजुर्गों, ऐ मौलवियों, ऐ कौम के मुंतखब लोगों, खुदा ताला आपको आपकी आंखें खोले, गैज़ और गज़ब से में आकर हद से मत बढ़ो, मेरी इस किताब के दोनों हिस्सों को गौर से पढ़ो कि इनमें नूर और हिदायत है. खुदा ताला से डरो, अपनी ज़बान को तकदीर से थाम लो. खुदा ताला खुद जानता है कि मैं एक मुसलमान हूँ. हज़रत मसीह मौऊद अलैहिस्सलाम फरमाते हैं कि मैं सच सच कहता हूँ कि अगर कोई मौलवी इस मुल्क के तमाम मौलवियों में से मारिफ़ कुरानी में मुझसे मुकाबला करना चाहे और किसी सूरत की एक तस्वीर मैं लिखूं और एक कोई और मुखालिफ लिखे, तो वो नहायत जलील होगा और मुकाबला नहीं कर सकेगा. और यही वजह है कि बावजूद इसरार के मौलवियों ने इस तरफ रुख नहीं किया. बस ये अजीम शान निशान है मगर उनके लिए जो इंसाफ और ईमान रखते हैं. This is the key, that nobody can stand against the exposition of the Holy Quran by Hazrat Masih Maud. He has made every effort with calmness and perseverance, with patience and fortitude, as we do in Pakistan today, against the worst of the ulama, the worst of the ulama under the firmament of heavens, who strike at our hearts and our souls and our bodies and our houses. But with patience, Jamaat Ahmadiyya has sustained and shown and demonstrated the example of the exposition of the Holy Quran. So, with that, I'd like you to know that to begin your morning, it is important for you to understand the exposition of the Holy Quran presented by Hazrat Masih Maud Islam, and then Tafsir Kabir, and then the ulama that have come after him and of course Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Al-Rabi Khamis Ayyad. Now before I close, I'd like to mention something very important. You and I cannot go solo in presenting the Holy Quran. We can't do it. We don't have the wherewithal of the training, but our missionaries are trained. Very well, sharply trained. And they have been given, remember this, the Quwwat Qudsiyya through Hazrat Masih Maud to convey that message. And when they enter a battlefield, that Quwwat Qudsiyya of Hazrat Masih Maud is with our missionaries. And with you, if you have them. More than once, our missionaries have been challenged. They didn't have any research with them. And God gave to them extraordinary help on those moments of challenge. I'll give you one example before I close, and that's a very important example. Just one last one. Who is the master of the ceremonies? Can I have another 5 minutes? Is that okay? Hazrat Maulvi Rajki Sahib was he was at a munazara, and and there were other companions of Hazrat Masih also with him. And one of the accusations was made against one of the Sahabi of what he had presented in the speech. Now they decided, our missionaries decided, that Hazrat Maulana Rajki Sahib would make the answer, would give the answer. So he got up and the Maulvi said, no, I don't want you to answer it, I want the Sahabi to answer it. And this happened a few times until finally people told him, calm down, you're going to get an answer anyway. So he gets up and he answers. And the question was, why don't you guys, the Ahmadis, do the sajda and the ruku and the ta'at of Islam behind us? Why do you differ? And Hazrat, now this was an abrupt question, and Hazrat Maulana Rajki Sahib gives a beautiful answer. I'm going to give it to you in a very short and a very nice, simplistic way. He says, look, this is what it is. Warkaul Maraki, this verse was revealed to the time and it was directed towards the Bani Israelites, to the Yahudis. That they who have been given the earlier verse should now go and follow and prostrate and do the ruku and sajda along with the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's the people who come later that they have, that the people who are in the past that they have to follow the new message. As a Muslim coincidentally, as a Muslim says, I was wondering why my name is not mentioned and the reference to me is not mentioned in the Holy Quran. And then he says, immediately God turned my attention to this. And this is in the very beginning of the Holy Quran. Alif Lam Mim, Zalikal Kitabu La Rayba Fihi, Hudan lil Muttaqin alladhina yu'minuna bil ghaibi wa yuqimuna as-salata wa mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun wallazina yu'minuna bima unzila ilayka wa ma unzila min qablika wa bil akhirati hum yuqinun. Wa bil akhirati hum yuqinun. The meaning of it is though that which is yet to come, that which is going to be revealed through Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. So Hazrat Maulana Rajki Sahib says to him, now see, it's not just the interpretation of the Holy Quran in an academic way, but it is a very live way. This is a live situation here, this debate that is happening. You'd imagine yourself in that debate. And Hazrat Masih, and he says, well, it goes like this. You were given the Quran. According to this, the new message has already come. That means the rejuvenation of Islam has taken place. Now it is for you. It is incumbent upon you to follow us, not the other way around. So what I'm saying in short is that there will be more than one occasion that you yourself will be challenged. But the best you can do is solo. Why don't you help the hand of the bishop? Join the Tabligh effort. Help them out in any way you can. And that will be the productive exposition of the Holy Quran. With that, it is